So there are multiple ways that you can add water and nutrients into your system. Just try and keep this rule in mind. You want to be adding the water and the nutrients together, so don't add water one day and then nutrients the next day, and you should be fine. So we're going to start off by filling the reservoir about 25%. That should be about 10 liters, but keep track of how much water you add, because that will affect how much nutrients you add since it's in a ratio. So after adding about 10 liters of water, I'm at 25% like you see here. It doesn't have to be exact, but we're going to be starting a germination ratio. That means we add 1 milliliter of nutrients for every liter of water. We added 10 liters of water, so that's going to be 10 of grow, micro, and bloom. Once all of your seeds have sprouted, then you can fill up with the vegetative ratio. You also don't want to stay in the germination ratio too long. Your seeds will have enough nutrients in them to sprout, but they're going to need added nutrients, which is what you'll be adding later in that vegetative ratio, that will let your garden grow quickly and add all that extra nutrients. Whenever you add something to the water, to the reservoir, there's always a chance that it could be affecting the pH. So when you add nutrients, you should get in the habit of testing the pH. If the pH gets too high or too low, the plants will no longer take in nutrients. The pH is ideally going to be between 5.5 and 6.5. Now fortunately, the nutrients we provide has a pH buffer. What that means is that when you add the nutrients, it'll actually balance the pH alongside, but not all nutrients are like this. The pH is usually the first sign that something's going wrong in your system, and so checking it usually weekly will get you way ahead of problems in your system, and it'll make the hydroponic experience much better. Now that all our water is good, we can test the water circulation to ensure that we assembled everything properly. So we'll start by plugging in the pump, and we can have the valve completely open to fill up the trays quickly. So leaving the top lids off is a good idea, or even just opening them up so you can see underneath, and just confirm that every single layer is filling up with water. Now that we've confirmed everything is assembled properly and it's moving from layer to layer, there's no leaks, we can set our flow rate. So the Eden Tower comes available in multiple sizes, and that means that there isn't really just a one and done fix for each one. So we're going to set the valve for a particular flow, and this is how you do it. So you'll begin by closing off the valve entirely so that the flow has stopped. You'll then want to slowly open it until you have just a trickle coming out. Now for the 4-layer, it's about halfway, and the goal is to try and get about 2 gallons per hour, and it really is a slight trickle. So if we take off the pillar and we have it wide open, you can see here it's flowing very hard, and the issue with that is that it tends to be quite a bit noisier, and too much water can raise the water level and also limit the amount of nutrients that gets provided to the plants. So the best practice is to slow that right down, and a practice typically in hydroponics is about 2 gallons per hour with a system of this size. You'll notice when it's about that rate, there'll be ripples, so it's flowing enough, but you don't want it flowing, gushing out of there. So the timer that you're provided has a few features that we want to highlight. There's going to be a red button kind of on the side, the output indicating. That'll tell you whether or not the timer is telling the power to be turned on. There's also a switch on the side, so if it's at the top, that will have the power always on, but if you push that down, it's going to set up the timer to be active. That means that it will turn off. So the black pins around the timer can be pushed down or up. So when the pins are down, that is the timer on, and when the pins are up, that is the timer off. Each pin represents 15 minutes. A good time is going to be 16 hours, and we're going to set hours for 22 to 6, so that is 10 o'clock at night to 6 a.m. So we're going to push down the pins from that 22 all the way around to the 6, and that's going to mean the time is on from that, and while the pins are up, that'll be throughout the night, the timer will be off. It is important that the plants do have some dark time, so ensure that it is not always on. Finally, the black arrow will point to the current time, so you can rotate clockwise until you get to the current time. At that point, you are ready and you can plug in the timer, plug in your lights, and you are all set to go.